Hi everyone, Melissa here with the Creative Season. Happy October. Well, we are painting some fall flowers, the Sunbeckia, or better known as Black-Eyed Susans. These gorgeous blooms bloom all the way through the fall. The frost doesn't bother them. So that is wonderful. I loved painting these flowers with muted fall colors. Pull out your sap green, your cadmium yellow, maybe a bit of gamboge, as well as some purple. And with just a couple of colors, we're going to create a really lovely, beautiful fall floral. I am so excited to be painting with you today and can't wait to get going. Hey everyone, well, we are back for another really fun video. We are going and continuing on painting our beautiful fall flowers today. So I don't think you can see the sketch really good, but I went ahead and showed a couple of the pictures of these flowers that we're going to sketch in today. And we're really going to go over our fall palette using our cadmium yellow and our sap green, a little bit of purple, but really these beautiful flowers, the Rudbeckia Sunbeckia, or otherwise known as Black-Eyed Susans, which are a beautiful variety, a hybrid variety that I learned actually comes out of Germany. And they're a Herta hybrid, they're bred in Germany. I'm going to just start picking up some of my green paint. They're very hardy flowers that bloom through the fall, which is wonderful because as it gets colder out and so many other flowers are not blooming anymore, it's lovely to have flowers that are still blooming. I'm filming in a little bit of a different location, a different room to catch some light this morning, so we'll see how this turns out. And right now I am laying down, really starting with just the middle of the flower. I really love how that middle eye of the flower gets really high and thick, and I was reading about these beautiful flowers, and if you don't cut them back in the fall, they'll just reseed themselves and pop up all over the place in fun places next spring when they start growing again. But again, I was just loving the unique way they look. They kind of look like a zinnia. They remind me of almost like a zinnia and a sunflower combination. I really like their big happy blooms. I love that. I also love that they're not too fancy. Like, I noticed the blooms or the petals were almost kind of wrinkly in a bit. We'll probably throw in some gamboge too, just to add in some extra color. So I'm using a size 5 brush, and I'm just moving around, kind of like when we went in our sunflowers. I am going to be pulling out, I'll pull out a little bit of gamboge. We may pull in, I'm going to use some of that purple, so I can also mix that in with the yellow and the green to create some shadowing. So I don't need to bring in a brown or anything like that. But just taking my time. If the green comes into some of the petals, I'm not mad about that. And just working my way around. As you see, I have 5 petals or 5 flowers because we always like to have an odd number. And what I did is when I was taking pictures of my mom's, the flowers that she had bought that she's planting in her yard, I was picking out what blooms I wanted to use and what would make like a really lovely composition. So I wanted them kind of to all be somewhat in the center, but not perfectly. We really love that beauty of asymmetry and the haphazard way. These flowers just almost have that real harvest feel about them, where they're very exuberant. They're not too worried about being completely in order like maybe a rose would be, or tulips, some of those other really spring flowers. The thinking of like the snapdragons that just always look quite orderly. These have a certain celebration of harvest. At least that's how I'm interpreting them. And they're very resilient, able to take in both the heat but also the cold, which makes them great for here where I am in Northern California. And we are just here, it is October, we're just starting to get into the fall weather. I also noticed with these flowers that a lot of their leaves were more towards the base of the flower, not everywhere. So I tried, there was a couple of leaves in other places, but I also tried to be cognizant of that as I was creating the composition so that we would be true to form to the distinct characteristics of these flowers. And okay, so to take advantage of that beautiful watercolor, either if you have maybe a cadmium dark, if you want to throw in some cadmium dark for another color, and I can show you what that looks like in here, or you can grab a gamboge. Either one is just going to add a little bit more intensity. Also, I'm wanting to create that sense of what I was talking about, those petals that looked almost wrinkled. And I really thought that was a really interesting characteristic, especially as they get a little bit older. They just almost look as if they're dried. Wrinkled might not be the right word, but almost like that, like tissue paper, when that sense when you kind of crinkle it a bit. I was noticing that in there. And moving to around the faces, I'm going to pick up some gamboge around their little heads. I'm going to add in some color. We're going to definitely come back and add some green. I'm going to put some of that. I noticed the yellow was also in their faces or in their eyes too. So coming back, adding in some yellow there. We'll add in some more green. Then let's go ahead. I am going to go and grab some sap green now. I'm picking up the sap green, which is definitely a fall color. Isn't that beautiful? A lot different from the cooler or that lighter, even lighter warmth of our spring greens. Remember, the fall palette tends to be muted, and sap green definitely has that sense of mutedness. I do have one leaf. I have a leaf up here, but most of my leaves will be more down here. Don't forget to get all of your stems in. And if you have a lot of wet paint on your petals, just be cognizant of that and come back later and add that the stems in. We don't want our stems to get away from us, right? We want to keep them nice and straight. So I'm kind of moving around the camera as well in this different location. Okay, so this is turning out really nice. Now we're definitely going to intensify all these colors. So if you're thinking it's looking a little bit meh as far as color goes, don't worry. We're going to come back and really add some darkness. We're going to add some purple into the green. And again, we're kind of doing some color blocking right now. Adding a little bit more in here. That looks really nice. Okay, if you have purple, dioxazine purple is what I'm using this morning. I'm still using the same brush. I'm going to come back around and I am going to use that in my for the container that they're in. And I think the container actually is black, but we are going to make it purple this morning. And I'm going to play carefully around my leaves. I don't want to get any sort of merging at this point. And then also be cognizant too if you are thinking that the light's coming in a certain area. So for example, if the light's coming in over here, we're going to make it darker over here, right? And then we'll let some more white over here to show that light bouncing off that side of the planter box. I think it's really interesting to go to like nurseries or maybe Home Depot or Lowe's and to see the different flowers that are out for fall and the different colors and just even the shapes. Definitely more robust flowers. Okay, you might hear the birds. The birds are quite loud this morning, which I love. We've been having, of course, the geese are flying and making their way south, and I was taking a walk earlier this week. I'm going to mix a little bit of purple in with the green. And I was watching all of these geese way up high going and disappearing as they make their trek up to the south. All right, so I've just taken that purple and I've added that to the green, and I'm now going to put that in the eye of my flowers. And you don't have to put it through the whole thing, but that's definitely creating some intensity, right? Just moving that around. This one I'm going to do a little bit less. A couple of these, they weren't quite, the newer blooms were not so dark. Now you might notice too, you have some purple seeping in. That's totally okay. I'm going to you can either grab a dry brush and just move that out, kind of clean that up, move it back around, and that will seep up some of that extra paint. Or you can just even leave it. I think on this one I'm gonna let it go. On this one I'll clean up just a little bit. Now I'm also going to take some of that green with the purple in it, mix a little bit more green, just not quite so much purple, but just some purple, and then come back over here and start adding in a darker area as well. Be careful where you lay your hand. Sometimes I lay it in the paint that I just laid down, and that turns into not so great. And I'm going to come back over here, adding in just a little bit more shadowing right over here. That looks really good. A little bit over my stem here. Not all the way down. Oh, but I realized I forgot a stem, so I'm going to put that stem right there. He'll be hiding. Now I'm going to come back. I'm going to get the gamboge and the yellow, whatever yellow or gamboge that you're using, and come back and then just add in where I'm seeing we want to add some more color. And then we really start to see that depth, right? Whereas you're putting that next layer of watercolor, and if you wanted to stop, for maybe you were just working on this before work and you just have a few minutes, and then come back and add some more intensity, that looks really nice. I'm extending some of my leaves where the petals, if you notice, they actually extend it out quite a bit, at least twice as long as the eye of the flower, so keeping that in mind as well. And just moving right along. Our beautiful fall flowers, they have that definitely a different color feel than the spring, than the summer flower. Robust, they can withstand the cold. Oh, but I got a little bit of darkness there, and you know what, that's okay. This is just a casual watercolor sketch, but be cognizant as it starts to move around a little bit. And if you have a paper towel or a napkin and it looks like I have moved, there we go, I do have something, moved my colors, you can always just come back and just dab that there. And then we'll come back and add some more color. I'm noticing too, this might be a time where you take a picture of your painting. I'll oftentimes take a picture and then look at the picture to see where am I missing some paint? Where did I miss a petal? It's funny when you're looking at the painting directly and then you just get a different perspective. That can be really, really helpful. Okay, this is looking really nice. I really like this. It definitely has some different colors. Now I want to move the purple a little bit around so we don't just have it at the bottom. So I can do that a couple ways. I can put some splatters on. I can also take a bit of the purple and mix it with the yellow. Those are actually complementary opposite on the color wheel, and they blend very nicely to create some shadowing. And then I can come back here and just move where I'm noticing some darker petals, for example. They're more in shadow. That would probably be over here. And take that purple and that yellow together, and that creates a really natural shadow. And we don't have to add like a brown or a gray or anything like that. Moving that around, and that looks really nice. Okay, I am going to come back now. I will say I probably want to darken up a couple different areas as I'm looking around here. Trying to, let me see, where are we on our time? We are at just 12 minutes. So we're actually moving along very, very nicely. I'm going to come back in here, put in some more of the colors right over there. And as this dries, I may come back and add a few other things, right? Add in some more yellow, add in a little bit of splattering. I am going to take some of the purple. I don't want to get too wet, but I'm just going to splatter right up here, over on the side. And then I'm going to pick up some of that yellow, some of that gamboge, and I'm going to just do a little bit of splattering over here. This will add to my petals as well. If it's wet, if we splatter on the wet, it does have a tendency to get, you can see right in here, but that's okay. What I come back and do is I just come back and I use that purple to create some different petals and create some edges there. Okay, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to let this dry, and then I'm going to come back and just add a few details with you. And we'll just spend just a couple of minutes adding in those details. So if you're come to a stopping point, just look at a few more things, making sure if you have any splatters that you added that look like they're going to get water stained or you want to add them into the painting, we'll do that now. And then we're going to come back in just a minute after it dries. We'll do a little bit more detail. I'm going to grab some green. I may have accidentally picked up another color green in there. That happens on the palette sometimes. Add in a little bit more green. We'll come back in too. We'll probably add some yellow to our green just to soften it all up. And that will be that. Okay guys, I'll see you in just a couple of minutes. Hey everyone, okay, so we're back and I was just looking at my phone at the pictures I had taken. I didn't snip the flowers, I just took some pictures to create off of it. So you can see here too how beautiful those colors are, but you can see where I'm going to add a little bit of detail just around the base of the flower. And isn't that one beautiful? It's just adding in some beautiful detail with the stem. So I'm going to go ahead now and just, if you have maybe some of these in your garden, or you're like me and you are borrowing someone else's garden, we're just going to go ahead. I had even seen on these flowers where there was some going to seed, you know, starting to dry out. And I just wanted to create in here that sense of those seeds that are starting. So I'm just taking my pen and I can bring that in a little bit closer even so you can see that. And I am just really creating some texture right in here. If maybe around the base of your flower, if like mine got a little bit away from me. So I'm just creating some texture and some borders as well as that sense of seed. You don't have to do this with your flower. I just sometimes like to add that little bit using the ink to add a little bit more detail and then coming back in with some more flowers. On this particular bloom, it was still yellow in the middle, so I'm gonna creating some seed, moving through. You wanna make sure your painting is dry, of course, before you add the micron pen. Otherwise that pen will die a premature death. So make sure your pen is dry. And I'm adding just some loose details. I'm going to do a little bit more splattering, where I'm going to add maybe a few more petals. Where some paint got a little bit merged, I'm just going to create that sense of distinguishing petals again. And sometimes the beauty of watercolor is the beauty of just letting everything merge down, and that's okay too. I had some blank areas here where the petals were going over the flowers. I think I have a petal that's a stem that should be coming into the pot here, so I need to add that in there, and I need to add that one in here where that's coming in. So if you notice any details like that, be sure to add those in now with your pen, or even just taking a note with your paintbrush. So once again, I'm just adding in some details here, looking around anywhere where I want to add the tips. I noticed the tips of these lovely Black-Eyed Susan, or the Rudbeckia Sunbeckia, as this variety, a particular variety is called. They had the tips had a bit of a pointy, so I'm just coming through too and making sure that I've created those. That's kind of a little bit of a pointy tip, either with the pen, or I'll come back with the paintbrush and add that in as well. And I have the purple down here, and I did want to add just a little bit of more purple around. And I was thinking too, I might add just a little bit of some color around here, but not a lot. Okay. Oh, good. You can see all of that now. That looks really nice. And you can even see with that how we really are starting to get some more distinguishing features, right? So instead of doing a wash with over here, I think I will just take the purple, a little bit more splattering here, and then just some concentrated splatters right there. I am going to take some purple and go right where I know it would be darker. So in here, underneath that area where the leaves are covering it, right? If you want to add just a little bit of green there to create that sense of that shadow, we'll put that in here. I'm even going to fill in, since the inside would be purple too, get some water, and even over here get a little bit more of that pure purple and just move that around. And of course, watercolor always tends to dry lighter, so if that looks really dark to you, it's going to dry, it will dry lighter. And with the tip of my paintbrush, I am actually going to go through here and add just a little bit of some dots at the base of my the eye of the flower. Not everywhere, but just in a few places, just spreading that purple. This is a little bit of that artistic, liberal, license is the word I'm looking for. Okay, so just a little bit there. Now I am going to take that cadmium yellow again and come through. Clean out your yellow if maybe you were mixing it. I know I was with some purple. Make sure that you clean out your palette, even just dab it with your paper towel or soft cloth. to get out the other color so we get back to that pure color again. And then I'm going to come back in here, and especially where I noticed we just got a little bit of dull where I had too much purple, for example, I'll pull that in here. Now up here I am going to actually just touch that yellow because I want to create a softness. I don't want the hard dots there, and that way that is just creating some shadowing. And I'm going to pull it down in the middle for those kind of those wrinkles or those crinkles in the flower. I'm just going to pull that down like that, maybe do a little squiggly, squiggly, squiggly. That's lovely. Moving this one down with some of that purple yellow in there. That looks really nice. Coming over here, adding in some of those squiggly centers, right? It's not huge things that make a difference sometimes. Sometimes these little details that overall really add to that beauty, which really comes to create a stunning, stunning painting. You know, flowers are simple and yet so beautiful, right? So gorgeous. They add so much joy, and I just think a bit of luxury, finery, beauty, a sense of wealth to any room, to any home. There is just really nothing as beautiful as flowers. Okay, just moving this around here, adding up, just going to add in another petal. This is looking really nice. Now if you wanted to add also, get some of that yellow and, you know, add in some more, add in some yellow splatters over here. I'm going to take some yellow lightly and just go ahead on some of this green and soften that up in there. Just a little bit, and soften that up in here where you're not really seeing the yellow, but the yellow is blending with that green. I didn't really want a lot of white, maybe a little bit of white, but that'll just move nicely. Also create some of those ends. And then over here, I'm going to pick up a little bit of green with the purple and to create a bit of shadow over on this particular leaf. Okay. This is all looking very nice. Now I don't want to overdo it, which sometimes I have a tendency to do. I do want to grab my other stems though that I had forgotten about and add in the green there and there, making sure that all our stems connect. Very nice. Very nice. If you want to add any more yellow to the faces or the eyes, I'm going to put a little bit of yellow in my middle here, where this one had some yellow. And then another one had a little bit more green, so I'm going to come back and grab that, pick up that green, and we'll just dot some green in there and some green in there. And for good measure, if you want to do some green splatters, now would be the time to do just a few, and I'm going to grab just a few right over here in this corner. Okay. And that looks lovely. I think I am going to stop now. And I'm looking one more time. Do I see anything else? No, I think this looks nice. My purple splatters got a little bit regimented over here, so I'm just going to drop some others in so they didn't look like they were like in a row almost. There we go. That's very nice. Okay, this is so pretty. Our beautiful fall Black-Eyed Susans. I hope you guys love this as much as I did. I will see you next week as we keep painting more fall flowers. All right, you guys have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your week.